Scorpio, you feel it, don't you? That shiver that runs down your spine when you look at the calendar and see August coming to an end. It's not just another week passing. It's the closing of a cycle you've been avoiding for years. This last week of August carries an energy you recognize instinctively. It's the same vibration you felt as a child in the moments before something irreversible happened, when you knew your life was about to change forever, but couldn't yet see how. There's something you've been hiding from yourself, a truth so profound, so transformative, that your conscious mind has built layers and layers of protection around it. But the protections are crumbling. This last week of August is when all the masks fall, when all the disguises become impossible to maintain, when you'll finally come face to face with who you truly are, beneath all the versions of yourself you've created to survive in the world. Have you ever had that dream? The dream where you're standing in front of a mirror, but the reflection staring back isn't exactly you. It's you, but transformed. More intense, more powerful, more true. Scarier too, because this version of you doesn't hide, doesn't apologize, doesn't dim your own flame to make others feel comfortable. This last week of August is when this reflection steps out of the mirror and takes the place of the version of you you've been up until now. The question that hangs in the air, heavy as incense smoke, is, are you prepared to die? Not physically. We're talking about something much deeper. We're talking about the death of every false identity you've constructed, the death of all the roles that aren't genuinely yours, the death of all the parts of you that exist only because someone once told you they should be. This last week of August is your season of death and rebirth. And unlike the phoenix in fantasy novels, your rebirth will hurt. It will burn. It will leave you breathless. Can you smell the smoke already rising? Scorpio, your entire life you've been called too intense, too deep, too complicated. You've been told to tone down your energy, to be more normal, to not scare people with your ability to see through their masks. You internalized this criticism and began to hide. You began pretending to be less than you really are. You began to dim your own light so as not to overshadow anyone. But this last week of August marks the end of this era of self-betrayal. Because the truth is, you were never too much for the right people. You were always exactly what some souls needed. Someone capable of diving into the depths, unafraid of the dark, transforming pain into wisdom. The problem is you've grown accustomed to relating to people who are afraid of the depths. And to maintain these superficial relationships, you've forced yourself to live on the surface as well. This last week of August is when you stop apologizing for who you are. It's when you stop explaining your intensity, justifying your need for truth, apologizing for not being able to pretend everything is okay when it's not. It's when you finally accept that your Scorpio nature isn't a flaw to be fixed, but a superpower to be fully embraced. Over the past few months, you've probably felt a growing pressure inside your chest, a feeling that something is building, accumulating, ready to explode. You may have tried to ignore it, distract yourself, occupy your mind with other things. But the pressure is still there, isn't it? Because it's not just pent-up emotion, it's power. It's your true nature demanding expression. It's your soul tired of living a half-life. For Scorpios born between October 23rd and November 2nd, this last week of August will reveal a betrayal you've been inflicting on yourself. You'll discover that you've been accepting far less than you deserve in some specific area of your life. And the anger you'll feel from this revelation will fuel a radical transformation. For those born between November 3rd and 12th, the focus will be on discovering a talent or skill you've been denying or minimizing for fear of being too much. This week, you'll be forced to recognize and use this gift, regardless of how others react. And for those born between November 13th and 22nd, it's time to confront a relationship pattern where you cast yourself as savior, therapist, or redeemer, and discover that in doing so, you've been avoiding addressing your own wounds that need healing. The death of a small, controlled version of themselves, and the birth of the version that always existed but was never allowed to fully emerge. And when I say birth, I'm not being poetic, I'm being literal. You'll feel like you're being born again, confused, vulnerable, but incredibly alive. Are you ready for this level of transformation, or are you still afraid to discover what you're capable of when you stop limiting yourself? The last week of August carries an energy of inevitability that you're already beginning to feel. It's like being on a roller coaster at the exact moment before the steepest drop. You know you can't stop what's coming, that there's no turning back, that all you can do is hold on and trust the process. But unlike a regular roller coaster, this descent won't last just a few seconds. It will last the rest of your life, because once you awaken to who you truly are, you can no longer pretend you don't know. You'll start to notice things, small details that have always been there, but your mind blocked them out to protect you. You'll start to see through the lies you've been telling yourself. You'll start to recognize the patterns you've been unconsciously repeating. You'll start to feel the pain that's been buried under layers of distraction and denial. And here's what might scare you. When you begin to see the truth about your life, you'll realize how many choices you've made out of fear instead of love. How many times you've said yes when you meant no. How many times you've accepted crumbs when you deserved the whole feast. How many times you've betrayed your own intuition to avoid disappointing others. The pain of this realization will be intense, but necessary, because only when you fully acknowledge what you no longer want to accept in your life can you create space for what you truly desire. This last week of August will be like emotional surgery without anesthesia. It will hurt while it's happening, but the relief that comes afterward will be indescribable. You will feel lighter, freer, more alive than you have in years. Because you will no longer carry the weight of being someone you are not. You will no longer waste energy maintaining an image that doesn't reflect your essence. You will no longer live as if you need external approval to validate your existence. Scorpio, there's a part of you that's been afraid of your own power. You know that when you allow yourself to be completely intense, completely focused, completely passionate about something, you become a force of nature. And this scares you sometimes because you've been conditioned to believe that your power can hurt others, that your intensity can be too much, that your capacity for transformation can be dangerous. But this last week of August is when you'll finally understand that your power isn't meant to be hidden or diminished. It's meant to be used consciously, directed toward creating the life your soul desires. Your transformative power isn't a threat, it's a gift. For you and for everyone fortunate enough to witness a Scorpio soul living without self-imposed limitations. During this week, you will experience moments of clarity so intense, it will be like having visions. Suddenly, you will understand why certain things happened in your life. You will see the patterns, the lessons, the preparations that were happening behind the scenes while you thought you were just surviving. You will recognize that every hardship, every disappointment, every betrayal was strengthening you and preparing you for this moment of total transformation. And you'll also understand why you went through periods of isolation, phases of feeling misunderstood, moments where it seemed no one could truly see you. It wasn't because there was something wrong with you. It was because you were in a chrysalis process, transforming into a version of yourself that people from your previous life couldn't recognize or follow. The loneliness you felt wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. You needed to spend time alone with your own essence to remember who you are when you're not performing for an audience. You needed to experience silence to hear your own inner voice. You needed to face the darkness to discover that you carry your own light. This last week of August marks the end of this period of solitary preparation. You emerge from your chrysalis transformed, and now you are ready to fly. But flying like a scorpion means soaring to the heights while maintaining the ability to dive into the depths. It means using your intensity as wings, not as a burden. It means transforming your sensitivity into a superpower, not a vulnerability. What will happen this week isn't something you can plan or control. It's something that must flow through you. Your only responsibility is not to resist the process. When intense emotions arise, feel them fully. When revelations arrive, welcome them without judgment. When impulses for change emerge, trust them even if they don't immediately make logical sense. Scorpio, you've always known you were different. You've always known you carried something special within you. Something mysterious, powerful, transformative, but you've also always been afraid of what might happen if you let that part of you be fully seen and expressed. This last week of August is when you stop being afraid of your own power and start consciously using it to create the life you always knew was possible. People around you will notice the change immediately. It won't be something you need to announce or explain. It will be obvious in the way you move, the way you speak, the way you look at the world. You will radiate a different confidence, not the kind based on external achievements, but the deep confidence of someone who has finally stopped betraying themselves. Some will be drawn to this new energy you'll be emanating. Others will feel uncomfortable because your transformation will mirror everything they lack the courage to transform in their own lives. This is natural and expected. When someone evolves rapidly, the relationships around them need to reconfigure themselves to accommodate this new version. Don't be surprised if some people try to convince you to go back to who you were before. They'll say you've changed too much, that you're different, that they preferred the old you, but you'll know deep down that there's no going back. There's no unseeing what was seen, unfeeling what was felt, unknowing what was known. The transformation is irreversible, and that's exactly how it should be. During this last week of August, pay special attention to your dreams. They will be loaded with symbolism and messages about what is dying and what is being born within you. Also pay attention to your visceral reactions to people and situations. Your intuition will be heightened, and you'll be able to instantly sense what is true and what is false, what nourishes you and what drains you, what belongs to your future and what needs to remain in the past. Trust these perceptions, even when they contradict what your rational mind is trying to convince you. Your body wisdom, your emotional intelligence, and your energetic perception will be much sharper than your intellect during this period. It's time to follow what you feel, not what you think you should feel. The intensity of this transformation can be daunting at times. It can make you question whether you're moving too fast, changing too much, feeling too much. But remember, you're a Scorpio. Intensity is your native language. Transformation is your natural element. Depth is where you feel at home. Don't apologize for processing life at levels others can't keep up with. Don't slow down to make others feel comfortable. This last week of August is your graduation from survival school. You spent years learning to navigate a world that often misunderstood your nature. You learned to protect yourself, to adapt, to function even when you felt out of place. Now it's time to stop just surviving and start fully thriving. What will emerge from you this week is a version of you that combines all the wisdom you've gained through your difficult experiences with all the passion and intensity that are your natural hallmark. It's a version that isn't afraid of its own depth, that doesn't apologize for its own complexity, that doesn't hide to make others feel safe. You'll discover that when you stop trying to be less, to fit into the small spaces others create for you, you naturally attract spaces that honor your full nature. Relationships that celebrate your intensity rather than tolerate it. Opportunities that demand your depth rather than avoid it. Experiences that nourish your soul rather than drain your energy. The last week of August marks the beginning of a phase where you stop explaining yourself and start simply being, where you stop justifying yourself and start expressing yourself authentically, where you stop asking permission to take up space and simply occupy the space that is yours by divine right. This transformation isn't just about you. It's about the example you will become for others who also carry intensity, depth, and transformative power, but are afraid to express them fully. You will become living proof that it's possible to be completely authentic in a world that often punishes authenticity. That it's possible to embrace your complex nature unapologetically. That it's possible to use your intensity as a creative force instead of a source of problems. Scorpio, this week of total transformation, be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to feel whatever arises without judgment. Allow yourself to cry if you need to, scream if necessary, be silent if that's what your body demands. Your emotional system is processing years of growth compressed into a single week. It's natural for it to be intense. Be patient with the people around you who may not understand what you're going through. They weren't made for this kind of radical transformation. They can't process change at the speed you do. This doesn't make them lesser, just different. You don't need to convince anyone of the validity of your experience. You just need to live it fully. And most importantly, trust the process. Even when it feels like you're falling apart, remember that demolition always precedes reconstruction. Even when you feel afraid of what you're becoming, remember that growth always involves leaving behind what is known and familiar. Even when you question whether you're making the right choice, remember that your soul would never lead you in a direction that isn't for your highest good. This last week of August isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of everything. It's when your real life begins. It's when you stop living like it's a rehearsal and start living like it's the main performance. It's when you discover that the extraordinary person you always knew you could be wasn't a fantasy, it was a prophecy. Are you ready to become who you always knew you could be if you had the courage to let die who you never truly were? If this message found you, it wasn't a coincidence. It was because your soul is ready for this transformation, and your energy field attracted exactly the information you need. Share in the comments if you've been feeling this internal pressure growing, if you've been having intense dreams, if you've realized you can no longer pretend in certain situations in your life. Your experiences will validate and strengthen the transformation of other Scorpios going through the same process. Subscribe to the channel now, because this last week of August is just the gateway to a completely new life. You'll need support to integrate the changes that will occur, guidance to navigate the new reality you'll be creating, and reminders that you're not crazy when the world around you seems unable to keep up with your new growth pace. Turn on notifications for immediate access to the content that will support you in this metamorphosis. The last week of August will arrive whether you like it or not. Transformation will happen whether you resist it or not. The only variable is whether you will consciously receive what is coming to you, or whether you will try to fight against forces that are far greater than your individual will. Scorpio knows power when you see it, and you are about to come face to face with your own true power. The final question is, are you ready to use it?